Good morning, everyone. This is Devesh Dwivedi from entrepreneurinmaking.com, and I have Scott Ginsberg with me. Scott is an author of 12 books, international speaker, connector, and most of all, he's the only guy in the world who wears a name tag 24/7, and you can see right there on the screen, he has it. So, Scott, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about this name tag, you and everything, how it all started.
It started 3,721 days ago, which if you do the math, it's just over 10 years. And when I was in college, I had this idea to wear a name tag just for fun, just to make friends and maybe meet some girls, although that really didn't work that well. But I did make a lot of friends, and it was a kind of a cool experiment. So I wrote a book about it when I graduated, about my experience with it. And once the book was out, I started my publishing company, and people asked me to give presentations about it. Later led to more writing and more consulting and mentoring and online video, and ultimately build an enterprise for the past 10 years now. And I specialize now in approachability and identity and execution.
Approachability. Tell us a little bit more about it, because I know wearing the name tag and your whole philosophy, as much as I have followed, is about approachability and making a name for yourself. Our audience is GenY, pretty young people, and some of these are just looking for a job. Some of these want to start a new business, or they're making a career change or something. I believe making a name for themselves is one of the very critical things in no matter what they're doing.
It is.
Tell us a little bit about that. How can they do that?
So approachability is kind of the philosophy behind it. You don't need to wear a name tag, but you do need to figure out what's your name tag. And everyone can be approachable in their own way, because the word approachability, it actually means to come nearer to. So the question is, how do people experience you? How do people experience themselves when they're connected with you? And how do you bring people closer to you? So one of the examples that I use, wearing a name tag is the basic piece of self-disclosure. My name is Scott. Your name is Devesh, and then we've exchanged that. So I think what people need to think about is, what can you reveal about yourself that's relevant? No one cares what kind of waffles you had for breakfast, but what could you reveal about yourself that's interesting, that's connected to what you're passionate about, that when you share it with someone, they're intrigued and they're fascinated, but they feel like they've had permission to share what's unique about them. So I think if we can get into one of those conversations with a foundation of passion, we can exchange that, then we actually come nearer to each other, emotionally, psychically, spiritually, and if we can do that kind of stuff, that's what approachability is.
Yeah. Awesome. And that I never looked at it that way. So thank you so much. That was a deep one. I never looked at a name in that sense, that having I understand it's a unique identifier of each one of us. Right. But I never looked at it the way you told me, and it's a very good one. So thank you so much. Now,
sure.
What about making a name for yourself? How do you do it?
Well, if you're under the age of 30, and I'm 30 right now, I was born in 1980, so I'm Gen X, not quite Gen Y, but if you're under the age of 30, there's this default posture that the world has not to believe you. It's well, you're under 35, or you don't have kids, or they just don't believe you. And so there's a credibility issue, I think, with making a name for yourself, and you don't need to dye your hair gray. I think what you got to do is understand how to show people that you're serious. Because I don't care how old you are. If you have your commitment and you have a way of showing your commitment to people, they're going to take you seriously. So part of that has to do with sticking yourself out there and not being anonymous, and showing people that you're willing to do what it takes and that you're willing to show up. And the work that you provide, that you do, whatever kind of work you do, it's got to be awesome. It's got to be great stuff. And if you can do that consistently, that is going to show people that you're committed. That's going to make sure that it doesn't hurt your ability to be taken seriously. And if all else fails, you can just get a tattoo of a name tag like I do.
So that is a good one. I think you just mentioned that you were 30, so now somehow you think that you are Gen X. My definition of Gen Y was anyone born in or after 1980. But anyway, so I consider you. But
it's irrelevant, yeah.
Let's not argue that, and let's assume that you are on the cusp of either Gen X or Gen Y.
Sure.
Have you ever felt that your age or you being too young has either come in your way to success or actually helped you in your way to success? How was your experience overall?
In the beginning, I started my company when I was 22, and the only reason people took me seriously a little was because I had written a book. If I didn't write a book and I was 22, no one would have taken me seriously. But apparently, if you've written a book, you're smart. Who knew? So in that way, it was a struggle, I think, at first. It's like, okay, you wrote a book, but what else do you got, kid? So part of that had to be with a lifelong pursuit of knowledge and getting better and getting smarter and having a collection of mentors to help you. And at the same time, you have to be okay with it, because if you make it an issue that you're young, it gives them permission to make it an issue. So what you have to do is admit it, diffuse it, and then move on. So what I used to do if I was doing a presentation, I knew the first thing people were thinking is like, how old is this kid? And knowing that was in the back of their mind, you have to disarm that immediate preoccupation. So what I would tell people is, now, I know right now you're probably wondering to yourself, how old is this kid? And they would all laugh. And I would tell them, I'm 22, or I'm 24, or I'm 27, or whatever it was. I would always say my age immediately, and then when they knew how old it was, I would say, in the words of the wise philosopher Indiana Jones, it's not the years, it's the mileage. And I would show people the mileage that I had accomplished in the short time that I'd been alive on this earth. And I figured, well, if people took me seriously because I had written one book, maybe I should just write a bunch of books. And so I kept building a timeline of credibility. And as a result, people stopped caring how old I was because they were too busy remembering how awesome I was.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Now, just one more thing. How do you feel about the Gen X, our boomers and other folks having stereotypes about about us, the Gen Y, about us being spoon-fed, or us being Facebook generation, or us being unproductive, right, or whatever. What are your thoughts on those stereotypes?
I actually was in a presentation yesterday. I was doing a talk in the afternoon, and in the morning, the other speaker was a generation expert. So he was about 60 or so, and he broke down the generations, and then he gets to generation X/Y, what millennials, whatever, and he starts talking about the characteristics. And I've heard the stereotypes that apparently we have no work ethic, we don't give loyalty, we quit all the time, we've been spoon-fed everything, everyone's a winner. We have no commitment, all these sort of standard things. And that immediately makes me cross my arms. I'm like, this guy's standing on stage, it's like telling me who I am. It's like, excuse me, I'm not sure you know who I am, so let me tell you. And I think what we have to do as whatever generation we are, as young people, when people make a gross generalization about our generation, you say, really, and now what evidence do you have to support that belief? Now, how many people do you know that are like, is this your 3 kids that are lazy losers, or the entire generation? And what you do is, if you know what the stereotypes are, if you know that people your age are mostly non-committal and don't work very hard, then just do the opposite. Then just be the one. It's like, he's the exception. That guy Devesh, I tell you what, he's only 27, but I tell you what, that guy works hard. He's the exception to the generation. And I think when you do that, people forget how old you are. You can sidestep those stereotypes, and you can be the exception to the rule, because all you got to do is go to Wikipedia, type in Generation X or Generation Y, look at what people say is bad about us, and do the opposite.
Yeah. Great. So, okay, before we close the interview and I ask you my last question, or last couple of questions, I would like to add a question that I got from one of my audience, one of my Facebook friends, Raman, and his question is, which even I think it's a question for many people, and even I'm wondering about it. He's saying, in addition to making yourself 100% approachable when you are meeting with a bunch of people, maybe in a networking event or maybe in any kind of group setting, how do you move on to the next person without making this first person who you are already in conversation with, making that person feel bad, or feel that you didn't value that first person just in order to shake a bunch of hands, you know what I mean?
Right.
So what's your suggestion? What could be done here?
punch people in the face. No, I'm just kidding. The key is to do it in a way that is respectful of their time and honors your own boundaries, because boundaries are saviors when it comes to being approachable, because you can be too approachable. I've been guilty of this before. And so the secret is you're talking to somebody, you've been talking for 10 minutes, going great, but you see Sam, who you really want to get to know, and you've heard about this guy. So what you do, never say, I'm going to go to the bar and get a drink, or I'm going to go get some food, because they might say, oh, I'm going to go with you. And you're like, oh, great. Now this guy's still talking to me. Or if you forget to go to the bar because you weren't really getting a drink, he'll see that you're a liar. So just be honest and be respectful. And what you say is, I really enjoyed talking with you, and I don't want to monopolize your time, and I want to make sure you get all the networking opportunities that you came for, but I'd love to continue this conversation. May I have one of your cards? I can send you an email. Then it's totally cool. You say, I want to let you have some other, it's got nothing to do with you. Now it's all about them. I want to make sure you get all the opportunities. And I see another friend of mine that I'd like to introduce. So I'm sure we'll talk again later. That's another good thing to say. So it's not like, okay, this is it, loser. You say, you know what? We have like 2 hours at this event. We'll talk later, I'm sure. So to be continued, I got to go. And people are cool.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that tip. Now, what are your top 5 suggestions or tips or advice, piece of words of wisdom for Gen Ys or audience in general?
Okay, number 1, don't be stopped by not knowing how. Now, I started my company, my publishing company, when I was 22. I didn't know what I was doing, and I still did it. And part of it has to do with giving yourself permission to do it anyway, even if you're not quite sure of everything. You don't need to be ready. You have to know everything. Just start. I mean, I'm 30 now. I've been doing this for 8 years. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. The second thing I'm going to suggest is don't try to get rid of your feelings of being inadequate. I mean, if you're 22 years old, or you're 19, or you're 25, it's always going to be there. Part of being successful is having that doubt that, you know what, I think people are going to find me out. I think people are going to realize I don't know what I'm doing. That's okay. It's actually a good thing. If you feel doubt about your own abilities, if you feel like a fake, that's good. That's a rite of passage, and it's part of being successful. So you just got to keep saying to yourself, you know what, I can do this, I believe. And if that doubt creeps in, it's cool. It's part of the deal. Third thing you got to do, mentors. I don't have a mentor. I have a galaxy of mentors, and I have my direct mentors, like my high school English teacher and a couple of people in my profession, my grandfather and my dad. I have other mentors that I see, once or twice a year. And then I have indirect mentors like Seth Godin, who I'm friends with, but I don't know that well. So I am mentored through his material. So I would say find those 3 different levels of mentors. They will help you on the way. Number 4, you've got to get rid of your cynicism. One of the biggest that I've seen characteristics of our generations, or younger generations for that matter, is the amount of cynicism. And people, baby boomers, anyone who's older, they don't like that cynicism. And cynicism doesn't look good on anybody. I've tried it. It's an outfit that I've tried on, and it looks terrible on me. I remember a couple of years ago, I was the president of an association, and we had no membership. We were totally getting killed, and I became really cynical. And my friends were saying, it doesn't look good on you, man. You got to cut that crap out. So as frustrating as you are making a name for yourself as a young leader, don't let the cynicism get to you, because people will smell it and they'll walk the other way. And then the last thing I have is, I don't think there is, as far as I've seen, I don't think there's anything more attractive, more interesting, more fascinating than your stunning clarity of purpose. Whatever you're into, you're an entrepreneur, or if you're working in the corporate world, if you have a greater understanding of your why, of why you are doing what you're doing, if you have that clarity and focus of your purpose, people are going to remember it. They're going to want to be around you. And number 3, they're going to want to help you get it done. They're going to want to help you achieve it, because you sort of infect people, not with a disease, but you infect people with your energy and kind of with your vision. And I think if you do that, whatever your goal is, if you can do that in a respectful and passionate and interesting way, that's the most approachable thing in the world.
Awesome. Scott, thank you so much. With that, was there any other thing that you would have wanted to talk about? Anything that you wanted to plug in here? Any links that we could find more information? Anything? Any parting comments, suggestions, anything?
Sure. I'll give you 3 parting comments. Number one, I am very easy to track down, unless I'm on vacation. That's different, but I'm not. So if you want to find me, it's very simple. Just Google NameTag. I'm really easy to find. That's the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is, I got a new book coming out, and I just so happen to have a copy right here. It's called Ideas Are Free. Execution is Priceless. This is a business devotional. And it's not nonfiction, it's non-friction, because it goes down easy. It'll be out February 1st, so look for it. And the last thing that I'm going to remind people is consistency is far better than rare moments of greatness. So all the stuff I said today, if you don't do it consistently every day, people will not take you seriously at all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Scott Ginsberg, author of 12 books, my lord. And the only guy who wears a name tag 24/7, and I'm very sure you realized why he does so. His success, his knowledge and everything else speaks for what he does. And of course, we congratulate him on all his success so far and wish him best of luck for future and the coming book. So make sure you go on to his website or Amazon and grab his book. It comes out February 1st. It's called Ideas Are Free, Execution is Priceless. I like that. See,
Thanks.
get
Me
that.
too.
So, all right, Scott, thank you so much. Bye now.
See ya. Thanks, Rich.